Hello. I said at the beginning of this year that I wasn't going to be buying so many art materials, which I've stuck to so far. But the Lutea brand of handmade paints, made from plants in Belgium, has caught my eye. They're very expensive paints though, so I would only buy a few. So today I'm doing an experiment to try and work out which of their paints will make the best limited palette. These are the colours I think I've narrowed it down to, and what I'm going to do today is pick out the most similar colours I have in my existing watercolours and see what kind of a limited palette they make. First of all then, I'm going to try and find my closest paints. For the Lutea Blue, I'm trying out Sennelier's Indigo first of all. It's probably the closest I've got to it, but to try and get an exact match just for fun, I'm mixing in some Schmincke Haze Indigo to give it more texture like the Lutea Blue seems to have. The next colour I like is the Lutea Brown. So here I'm putting down some Mijello Mission Gold Van Dyke Brown. Whilst it's the closest paint colour I've got, it's not exact, so I'm adding a bit of Schmincke Sepia Brown to get kind of the darker brown like the Lutea is. Next up I like the Lutea Orange. Daniel Smith Quinacridone Sienna is probably the closest I've got, though it's not completely accurate, so just for fun I'm trying mixing it with a bit of Daniel Smith Quinacridone Deep Gold and underneath some Sennelier Burnt Sienna. I also like the Lutea Yellow, and the closest I have is Isaro's Minty Green. And lastly, for Lutea's Carmine, I'm trying Daniel Smith's Mayan Violet. The Lutea paints seem to have a lot more texture and natural particles in them, but I think these are the closest approximations that I can get for trying out my mixing palette. So what I'm doing is painting out the 5 closest colours into a kind of colour wheel, and I'll see what range of colours I can mix from them, and if the 5 Lutea colours I think I want to get will be adequate to form a palette in their own right. There are only 12 colours in the range of Lutea tube paints, and I'll link to them down below in Jackson's if you're curious about them. So the Mayan Violet, which I've already done, and the Daniel Smith Quinacridone Sienna, which I'm painting now, which represent the Carmine and the Orange from the Lutea range. They're acting as my cool and warm reds in this colour wheel. Then the only yellow I'll have is this Isaro Minty Green, standing in for Lutea Yellow. I'll put my brown in the middle of the colour wheel because it's a mixture of red, yellow and blue. And this is the Mission Gold Van Dyke Brown, standing in for the Lutea Brown. And then there's only one blue, and I've chosen the Sennelier Indigo to stand in for the Lutea Blue. So the question now is, can I mix enough good colours from them? I start off by mixing the Quinacridone Sienna with the Mayan Violet to try and get a slightly more mid-tone red. There isn't an actual true red in the Lutea range itself anyway. This one that I'm achieving now isn't a million miles away from it. I then mix up the Daniel Smith Quinacridone Sienna with the Isaro Minty Green, and that produces quite a nice medium orange. There's a gorgeous Lutea purple, but I don't really use purple enough to justify buying one. But I'm quite happy with the purple that I can get when I mix the Mayan Violet with the Sennelier Indigo. I can also use those two colours to make this nice kind of navy blue. And then for a nice neutral, kind of almost a green leaning Payne's grey, this is a mixture of the quinacridone sienna and the indigo. There are a couple of really nice natural looking Lutea green paints, so I'm interested to see the greens that I can get here. I did have one of the greens on my wish list first of all, but I realised that the yellow would be more versatile. I do really like this green that I'm mixing. And then, sorry it's out of shot, but here's another green that I use mixing a greater proportion of Isaro Mindy Green with Sennelier Indigo. Then I've got a raw umber colour mixing the Isaro Mindy Green and Van Dyke Brown. And then more of a burnt sienna kind of colour when I mix the quinacridone sienna and the Van Dyke Brown. I also like this naphthalmide maroony kind of colour that I get from mixing the Mayan Violet with the Van Dyke Brown. And then when I mix the Van Dyke Brown with the indigo, I get this beautiful kind of blue leaning Payne's grey. So that's all the mixers I was keen to see. I'll show you them up close. So obviously these aren't identical to the 5 Lutea paints that I'm interested in, but I think they're close enough to give me some idea of the kind of mixers I'll be able to get with them. I think this is a gorgeous range of muted colours. There isn't a lemon yellow, and so we won't have the brighter greens and oranges, which you could achieve with that, but Lutea doesn't have a yellow like that anyway. And there's no lighter blue or turquoise or true red, but Lutea doesn't have those in their line either, so I'm pretty happy that the 5 colours I've picked out are good ones from the range. After doing the colour wheel, I just fancied doing a little sketch in the corner. I did it similar to one of the mini mixed media paintings I did yesterday. So yeah, just a quick little thing to try out some of the colours. As I said then, I think I'd be happy with that selection of 5 colours from the Lutea range. Having seen the approximate colours I'd be able to mix from them. So I might well treat myself to them in the next month or so and satisfy my curiosity about them. I enjoyed that little colour mixing session anyway, and hope you did too. Bye!